Okay, I'm just going to introduce Sam Walker, so you know who she is and a bit of background to Sam. So Sam is a Fawcett member, first and foremost, has been a Fawcett supporter for some time, and she has been fighting an equal pay case against the Co-op group. She's the former chief HR officer at the Co-op, and she was there during the time when it was going through that rescue period when the Co-op was in crisis. So she played a very pivotal role in all of that. So Sam and Carrie are going to have a conversation about Sam's case. And I just want to say, at Fawcett, we've been offering moral support. We haven't been able to offer any financial support, I hasten to add. We've been offering moral support to Sam, and together with Carrie. And I think her case does illustrate many of the points that Carrie has already highlighted. So she had a major victory yesterday, which was announced, which you may have seen. And, having sat through some of that tribunal hearing, I can tell you, she really did wipe the floor with them. They were terrible. And it was a joy to be with her because she was so hot and so professional about how she did it. But by God, it was a full-time job to get that ready. And, there were 9, 10 lever arch files of evidence. It was just a massive task. She had a great brief, etc. I won't take her thunder in talking anymore. But Sam, we pay tribute to you. You've been brilliant. Massive inspiration, and thank you for fighting it. And there are so few women who get to be able to do that, which is why we have to support this Equal Pay Fund and why we have to have this service. So anyway, I'll hand over to both of you. There you go.
I'd just like to add my congratulations. Amazing. So, Sam, why? Why did you take this all the way?
I felt, as the most senior woman at the Co-op, that I had absolutely no option but to. If I hadn't, I would have been turning my back on all the other women there. And having gone through the Co-op crisis, I was responsible for putting in a new grading system. And as that grading system rolled out, it became blatantly obvious there was a problem throughout the organisation. Blatantly obvious. And because I was in the position I was in, I could see that. Now, so if I hadn't taken it the whole way, no one would have known.
The problem, tell us about the problem.
The problem fundamentally was that at every single level as that grading came out, the top of the grades were populated by men, and the bottom of the same grades were populated by women. And the Co-op, like many other organisations, has published its gender pay gap. That's an indicator. That's an indicator in itself. But I absolutely fundamentally could see people in the same roles, women and men in the same roles, where the women were paid less than the men.
And why?
Why were they? Historically. Absolutely historical. So I was part of a team that went into the Co-op to rescue the Co-op. We inherited that. But I can tell you, Carrie, and I hate to say this, I've got 28 years worth of HR experience. When I was 19, I was a staff records clerk at the BBC.
Oh. Two values-led organisations.
And when you're a staff records clerk, you see the staff records. It has always been thus. I think it's a socially accepted norm, even in today's society, unfortunately.
So you took it all the way to make a point?
Yes.
And explain the point. So is that the point, that it's socially acceptable, that it needs to change?
Yes, I think it is. I think it is the point, because I know we've got a select committee looking at this. I know we can tweak the law, we can change the law. But if the only course for redress every single time is to go to tribunal, my grievance alone, like yours, took a year internally. Co-op's grievance process allows for 10 days. There's no repercussions when they decide to let it run a year. There's no repercussions when they promise to do an audit as a result of your grievance and then flatly refuse to do so. There are no repercussions for them flouting their own policies, their own procedures, and then you're left with the legal costs of going to tribunal. I can tell you now, they were more worried about the grocery ombudsman, or whatever it's called, coming in and fining them for their treatment as suppliers. Or you mention the pensions regulator, and they all jump, because the fines can be imposed. There's absolutely nothing when it comes to equal pay.
So they don't fear the regulator?
They don't care. They don't feel the regulator at all. They don't care.
Yeah. So when you said to them, and you know, only tell us what you feel able to tell us, but when you said to them, well, you've got this problem,
Yep.
and you were still inside,
Yep.
and you're the boss of HR,
Yep.
and therefore they should listen.
Yes. They said, we're reorganising the company and HR's not going to be on the exec anymore. So I fought that, and I fought that for 3 months, and in the end they said, no, HR's not going to be on the exec anymore. So I finally went off sick. I was very ill by that stage with the stress, and 4 days into my sick leave they sacked me.
So let's talk about what it cost you personally. What has the experience been like?
It's been horrific. It's very, very isolating. Very isolating. They put out an announcement internally that I was off for family reasons. They knew that I had a disabled child, and they allowed all the other employees at the Co-op to think that I was off because my daughter was hospitalised. I wasn't allowed to say anything. I was effectively gagged for 3 years.
And that was gagged actually by your own lawyers who
Yes.
didn't want to annoy or offend or in any way kind of colour the judge in the employment tribunal.
Yes, that's exactly the advice you get from the lawyers is don't do a Carrie. Basically, sorry, don't do a Carrie. Because it's trial by media and it will influence the panel. So you're gagged. You're gagged to former friends, you're gagged to former colleagues, you're gagged to the public, you can't talk.
So then the company can say what it likes, you feel you can't say anything,
Yes.
and then 3 years on, you get to court, but what happens in those 3 years? What's it like for you being inside that experience, apart from the isolation?
Well, you're not paid, so I had no income. We remortgaged our home on this. I used all my savings on this. I think if I hadn't had such a good network of friends and people who responded when I reached out, and Sam included, I would have folded. And I had just such a good network that kept going, keep going, this is really important. After 28 years of being in HR, and being referred to as the used car salespeople. Reputationally, I had to make a difference. You know, you get a kicking when you're in HR, like you do if you're in IT, quite frankly, but, you know, what was 28 years for if at the end of it, I walked away and I didn't say anything, and none of those other women at the Co-op were aware there's a problem? What did that really achieve?
Do you think they can become aware of the problem now? I mean, I was shocked this week. I know it's been a big Brexit story this week, but I was shocked that this story, major UK employer, values-led organisation, that we've seen one quite complicated news report on it, and that's it. Do you think you can get that message across to women?
I'm really, really hoping through social media now, because I can't rely on the other media. The Guardian have put it out, if you all want to have a look. What happened when I first brought the case is the Guardian brought their report out, and then the other newspapers caught up. I'm really hoping this week that happens, and then there's further comment.
Did you buy into Fiona's argument about the Millicent Fawcett patients? That between the age of, you know, that by the time you're 71, your story, the impact of the enormous courage that you've shown and the sacrifices that you've made and the risks you've taken, that the impact of that will have paid off for women in this country?
It needs to. It's why I did it. It absolutely has to. I mean, that's why I'm working with you and Sam. I'm going to collaborate with the whole fund thing, because as a senior HR professional, boy, do I know the tricks in the book. You know, I think I won a lot of my case because I screenshotted various conversations and text messages between me and colleagues and my CEO as evidence. You can't go into this not being prepared.
Yes, so it's worth pointing, just in case anyone has a company phone and anyone's going into an equal pay fight with their employer, that company firm may go black, like Sam's did. You know, one day it's just black. And so if you're having conversations by text with your boss that are relevant to your pay or your value or your contribution, perhaps it's a good idea to follow that advice, screenshot it.
Yeah, I had to. So this has to make a difference. Whether I can't control the press, I would love to make a big splash, but there's too much Brexit noise out there. I'm going to be relying on social media, on all of you forwarding that message, of all of you talking about that, because more women need to come forward and be brave. It's easy for me to say that. I was a highly paid executive with an incredibly supportive family who were happy to remortgage the house on this. I will be lucky, and I'm being very, very honest, I will be lucky to break even.
After 3 years of,
After 3 years.
full-time work.
I do not walk out of this with megabucks. Doesn't happen.
So,
I will break even.
So given the enormous costs involved, and given that not everybody has a supportive family to see them through, and, you know, to
resources.
Toby, where's Toby? To see them through, what is your advice for everybody in this room on equal pay if they're in doubt about their own pay, if they're advising a friend or a member of their family?
I think get your facts straight and get all your evidence together first, so when you even start to have that conversation with your employer, you are armed. Now, it's very easy for me to say that because I was senior and I had access to that information, and that's where the law does need to change. But you have to be forearmed. I remember our conversation when you were going, do I, don't I, before you and Tony reached your agreement. If you've got the information, if the employer has any sense of reasonableness, which I hate to say it, the BBC must have done to at least gone that far and not gone legal, because you had the information to go legal, Carrie, and they didn't need to. I tried that and I failed. I had to go legal. I asked 4 times for an equal pay audit. It was even agreed to by Lord Adebowale in my grievance hearing, and then turned down afterwards by Hazel Blears. You know, if I can't turn to people who are ex-MPs and in the House of Lords and ask them to make reasonable requests.
So yes, so that, but the message is, it's extremely intimidating, it's extremely costly, it's very damaging to your future. Why would anyone go there? Let's just put our heads back in the sand.
Because we'll never get change. And forget being 71, we'll be dead. It just won't happen. It just won't happen.
So, Sam, well done again. Thank you so much for giving